The moment I found out, I was standing in her kitchen. She had just handed me a cup of coffee, the expensive kind, the kind I stopped buying for myself 2 years ago to save money, and I was looking at a piece of paper on her counter that she had forgotten to hide. A property tax statement. Her name, this address, owner since 2021. I had been paying her rent since 2021. My name is Emily Carter. I am 29 years old, and for 3 years I believed I was the only thing standing between my sister and homelessness. Let me take you back to the beginning. Lauren is 2 years older than me. She has always been the one our family worried about, not because she was troubled, but because she had a gift for appearing fragile at exactly the right moment. Growing up, I watched her cry her way out of consequences, charm her way into second chances, and accept help with the practiced grace of someone who had learned very early that vulnerability was a currency. I loved her anyway. That's the thing people never understand about these situations. You don't keep giving to someone you don't love. The love is what makes the wound so deep. 3 years ago, Lauren called me in tears. Her landlord was raising the rent. She couldn't afford it. She was going to lose her apartment. She had nobody else to ask. I was making decent money. Not great, but decent. I was a graphic designer at a mid-size agency. I had savings, I had a small studio apartment, and no dependents, and a sister who was crying on the phone at 11 o'clock at night. I said yes. $1,500 a month. Every month, for 3 years. I told myself it was temporary. That's the word I held on to. Temporary. She just needed time to get back on her feet, time to find a better job, stabilize, figure things out. The first year, I didn't ask questions. That's what you do when you love someone. You give without keeping score. The second year, I noticed things, small things. A new handbag I hadn't seen before, a weekend trip she mentioned casually, the kind you book last minute only when money isn't the obstacle. Dinner at restaurants I couldn't afford. I told myself she was just managing better, that my help had given her breathing room, that this was what the money was for. I kept sending it. The third year, I started struggling myself. My agency went through layoffs. I wasn't let go, but my hours were cut. The $1,500 a month stopped being something I barely noticed and started being something I felt every single month. I skipped my own dentist appointments. I didn't replace my laptop when the screen started flickering. I told my friends I was saving when they asked why I never came out anymore. I never told Lauren any of this, because every month when I sent that transfer, she would text back the same thing. "Thank you, Em. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're literally saving my life." And I would read that and feel needed, important, like the sacrifice meant something. That's the part that embarrasses me most now. Not the money, the need to be needed. So there I was, standing in her kitchen, coffee getting cold in my hand, staring at a property tax document with her name on it and an ownership date that meant she had owned this apartment, owned it for the entire duration of every single transfer I had ever sent her. She walked back in from the bedroom. She saw my face. And in the half-second before she composed herself, I saw something in her expression that told me everything. She had known this moment was coming. She just hadn't expected it to be today. I didn't scream. I've thought about that a lot since. The fact that I didn't raise my voice, didn't throw anything, didn't do any of the things you imagine yourself doing in a moment like that. I just stood very still and looked at her and waited. Lauren has always been better at talking than I am. It's her superpower. She can find the angle, find the frame, find the version of events that makes the difficult thing sound reasonable. I had watched her do it my entire life. I wanted to see if she could do it now. It's complicated, she said. Is it? Did you own this apartment when you called me crying 3 years ago? She set her own coffee down, looked at the counter. Yes, she said, but it wasn't. Did you own it last month when I sent you $1,500? Emily, if you'd just let me explain. Lauren. My voice came out quieter than I expected. Did you own it last month? She didn't answer, which was its own answer. I sat down, not because I was calm, because my legs needed me to. I made her talk. I didn't let her deflect or reframe or turn it into a conversation about our relationship or our childhood or what I didn't understand about her financial situation. I asked specific questions and I waited for specific answers. Here is what came out, slowly, over the next 40 minutes. Lauren had inherited the apartment, not from our parents, from our maternal aunt, who had passed away in early 2021 and left Lauren the property in her will. Lauren hadn't told anyone in the family. She said she was afraid of what people would think, that they'd stop helping her, that they'd assume she was fine. She had a mortgage on the property. She had taken out equity to pay for renovations. She said the mortgage payments were high. She said she genuinely couldn't cover them and her living expenses simultaneously. So she had called me. I wasn't lying about needing help, she said. I really did need it. You needed help with your mortgage, I said slowly, on your property that you owned, that you didn't tell me about. When you put it like that, how would you like me to put it? She went quiet again. I thought about the laptop I hadn't replaced, the dentist appointments, the dinners I had turned down, the savings account I had drained so carefully month by month because I believed I was the only thing keeping my sister housed. She had a property. She had equity. She had options. She had chosen to call me instead, and I had chosen to answer every single time. The worst realization wasn't that she had lied. People lie, people rationalize, people construct versions of their circumstances that make their choices feel justified. The worst realization was the phone call I remembered from 8 months ago. I had called Lauren, not to ask for anything back, just to talk, just because I was having a hard month and I needed to hear a familiar voice. And she had cut the call short, said she was busy. I had been paying her $1,500 a month, and she couldn't give me 20 minutes. I thought about all the times she had said, "You're literally saving my life," and I had felt warm from it. She hadn't needed saving. She had needed someone willing to be used. And I had been so perfectly, completely willing. I stood up from her kitchen table. I need to go, I said. Emily, please, can we just talk about this? I picked up my bag. I looked at her one more time, my sister, my blood, the person I had restructured my entire financial life around. I think, I said carefully, that we've been talking about this for 3 years. I just didn't know it. And I walked out. I drove home on autopilot. I don't remember the route. I don't remember parking. I remember sitting in my car outside my building for a long time, hands still on the wheel, engine off, staring at the middle distance. My phone buzzed. Lauren. I turned it face down. There is a specific kind of grief that comes from being deceived by someone you chose to trust completely. It's not like losing someone. It's more like discovering a room you've lived in your whole life has a false wall, and behind the wall is a space you were never supposed to see, and now you can't unknow it. You can never walk into that room the same way again. I called my best friend, Maya, that evening. I told her everything, the document, the conversation, the mortgage, the inheritance, all of it. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. I saw Lauren at the farmer's market about a year ago. She was with a man. I assumed it was someone she was dating. They were talking to a real estate agent, like looking at listings. I thought it was weird, but I figured maybe she was just browsing and I didn't want to make it a thing. Looking at listings, while I was skipping dentist appointments, while she was receiving $1,500 a month from me. She hadn't just been comfortable, she had been expanding. I spent that night going through everything, my bank records, every transfer, $54,000 over 3 years. I wrote the number down and stared at it for a long time. $54,000. I thought about what that number meant in my life, the emergency fund I had never built, the solo trip I had always wanted to take but told myself I'd do when things settled, the investment account I had opened and then drained, the breathing room I had never given myself because I was too busy giving it to someone who had never needed it the way I thought. I want to be honest here because I think it matters. Part of me had known. Not consciously, but there had been moments, the handbag, the trips, the restaurant she casually mentioned, where something in me had registered an inconsistency, and I had chosen not to pull the thread. Because pulling the thread meant dismantling the story, and the story, I am the sister who shows up, the one who sacrifices, the one who loves without conditions, that story had been part of my identity for so long that questioning it meant questioning myself. Lauren had exploited something real in me, a genuine desire to be good, to be the person who shows up. That's the part I had to sit with. Not just what she had done, but what I had allowed, what I had chosen not to see. 2 days later, our mother called. Lauren had told her. Of course she had. But in Lauren's version, I had found the document and blown up and stormed out without listening. In Lauren's version, she had been trying to explain, and I had refused to hear her out. In Lauren's version, she was the one who had been hurt. My mother's voice on the phone was careful, diplomatic, the voice she used when she was trying not to take sides while very clearly taking a side. "She's really upset, Emily. Maybe you could just hear her out?" I closed my eyes. This was the pattern. This had always been the pattern. Lauren falls, the family catches her, and whoever didn't catch her fast enough becomes the problem. For 29 years, I had caught her. I was done. I didn't confront Lauren again. Not immediately. I gave myself 2 weeks. I needed to think clearly, and I knew that walking back into her apartment while I was still raw would give her the advantage, because Lauren was always better in emotional chaos than I was. She knew how to use tears. I needed facts. I talked to a financial advisor, a real one, not a friend with opinions. I laid out the full picture, the transfers, the amounts, the timeline. I asked what my options were. The answer was more complicated than I expected. Technically, I had made voluntary transfers, gifts legally. Recovering them would require proving fraud, proving that she had deliberately deceived me into giving money I wouldn't have given otherwise. The property document helped, the timing helped. Her own words in our conversation helped, because I had, without planning to, recorded part of it on my phone. Not maliciously, I had hit record instinctively when I sat down, something I still can't fully explain. I sent it all to a lawyer. I didn't do it because I was certain I'd win. I did it because I needed Lauren to understand that the version of me she had been dealing with, the quiet one, the accommodating one, the one who swallowed her doubts and kept sending the money, was gone. The lawyer sent a formal letter. 3 days later, Lauren called me 14 times in a row. I answered on the 15th. She wasn't crying this time. She was cold. A version of my sister I had rarely seen. The one that emerged when the performance wasn't working. "You're seriously doing this over money?" "I'm doing this," I said, "because you looked me in the face for 3 years and let me believe something that wasn't true. I needed help. You needed help with a mortgage on a property you inherited and didn't tell me about, while I was cutting my own expenses to send you money every month, while you were looking at more real estate." Silence. "Maya told me," I said quietly, "about the farmer's market." More silence. "Lauren, I don't hate you, and I meant it, which was the strangest part, but I am not the same person I was 2 weeks ago, and that person is not coming back." We didn't resolve anything on that call. We haven't resolved anything since. My mother is still diplomatic in her careful, side-taking way. My father hasn't called at all, which is its own kind of answer. But here is what I know now that I didn't know 3 years ago. Love is not the same as access. Caring about someone does not mean you owe them unlimited entry into your resources, your sacrifices, your quiet suffering. You can love a person completely and still close a door. I rebuilt my savings, slowly, month by month, the way I had drained it, carefully, intentionally. I went to the dentist. I replaced the laptop. I took the trip I had been postponing for 2 years, a week alone in Portugal, just me and a notebook, and mornings with no one's crisis to manage. I thought about Lauren every day that week, not with anger, with something more like clarity. She had shown me exactly who she was. For 3 years she had shown me, and I had kept rewriting what I saw into something more comfortable. The kindest thing I could do for myself, the most loving thing, was to finally believe her. My name is Emily Carter. I spent 3 years saving someone who didn't need saving, and then, finally, I saved myself.